Hello guys, my name is Shimoli and you can call me Aries. It's a great honor to be the first group and first one to make their presentations today. As you know, we're going to discuss the differences between two articles today. We team then choose the topic of PBL, the project-based learning. So here are two titles of the articles. The first one, testing the impact of PBL learning in secondary school. And the second one, how science, technology, engineering, and mathematics PBL affect the high, middle, and lower achiever differently. So before our discussion, what is PBL? Now here is a video. We can watch it and learn what PBL is.
Project-based learning, or PBL, is an instructional approach that helps students master content and skills through authentic, real-world experiences. However, PBL is more than just doing projects. For example, if we want to teach students about wind energy, we might first talk to them about weather patterns and the physics of a wind turbine. We could take them to visit a wind farm and then head back to the classroom to put together model kits. It seems like good lesson planning, but what's missing is the inquiry, creativity, and relevance that are essential for active learning. Now suppose instead we start the project by asking a compelling question like, how might our community prepare for a sustainable energy future? And then guide the students through a meaningful journey of uncovering content to produce a genuine solution. What is sustainability? Would wind energy be a good fit for our community? How well do wind turbines work? This approach encourages digital thinking, where students leverage multiple resources like community and global experts, online articles, and field research. It also encourages artful thinking, where students must create, craft, test, refine, and present a high-quality solution to an authentic audience. All the while, students are reading, writing, speaking, and listening just like experts in the field. It's an open-ended challenge that empowers students and better prepares them for the world beyond school. So how can you engage your students with high-quality project-based learning? To find out more, give us a call or visit ctlonline.org.
Okay, so I think now it's really clear what PBL is. Yes, it is an instructional approach designed to capitalize on students' drive for sense-making. It is suggested by Neil K. Dude. Okay, so let's move to main purpose. So, what's the differences between these two articles? The first one, it is talking about the impact of PBL with professional development supports on social studies, literacy achievement, and the motivation of second-grade students from low socio-economic status school districts. While there are two main purposes for the second article, the first one to investigate whether participating in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics project-based learning activities affected students who had different performance levels. For the second purpose, it aims to find out what extent students' individual facts can influence their mathematical achievement. Yeah, there are the differences.
So, the key questions that each research project tries to answer or find out is, the Article 1 focuses mainly on the following questions. The first would be, does the incorporation of PBL approach in grade 7 impact the attainment of literacy, which is mainly measured by the progress in the English assessment? And then the research tries to find out if there's a poignant difference in the impact of project-based learning between the free school meal pupils and the non-free school meal pupils. And yet another important question that the research tries to answer is, does PBL approach actually enhance the children's learning quality? Coming to Article 2, the main questions the research tries to answer includes, can implementing of PBL in STEM learning help improve the academic side of students? And another question would be, is there any relationship between the performance levels and the impact of project-based learning in the academic activities of pupils.
Going to talk about the methodology for the first paper with the EF. So basically what they are doing a quasi experiments, and then they are followed up by a case study afterward. However, it's important to mention that before the main experiment, they also do a pilot projects that aim to improve the process of the experiments, so they can use it, the improvement in the main projects. So basically what they are doing before the whole process is they recruit schools, and they got 24 schools that wanted to participate in the experiments. After that, they do a minimizations of that, and they come up to 12 schools to receive the interventions or PBL. This one, I will refer them as intervention groups. And they got also 12 schools that didn't use PBL, and I will refer them as control group. So at first, what they are doing is the research get the students' SATs score for the baseline, as they believe that a pretest would be misleading. Afterward, the interventions group will help project-based learning in their school, and the teachers also receive training and support during the process. After that, both groups are again, you got a task, BIE score test, and also they gave the students a school and learning surveys, and also they record their attendance. Based on that analysis, they choose 2 schools that they considered successful and were invited to participate in case study. It is important to mention that during the experiment and observation phase over here, they're also doing a process evaluations where they conducted focus group discussions, survey, in-depth interview with the students, head teachers to find out about their motivations, challenges that were happening throughout the process. So they picked 6 schools randomly from the 12 schools, and then based on that, 3 schools quit the projects because they don't want the researcher team to come and conduct assessment and also surveys in their schools. So the final schools that assess for the interventions group is actually only 7. And then another important part of the methodology is how they analyze the data. So basically what are they doing is they compare their literacy attainment based on the score before the interventions here and after the interventions. After that, they also group the data from the qualitative process in here, and then group them and then also make some conclusions from that. This is for the second paper, the methodology for STEM PBL. So the main differences before is for literacy, and this one is for STEM. But the similar thing, it's a quasi-experiment. They are both quasi-experiment. Although there are quite different, since in this paper, the researchers doesn't really explain how they choose their school. So they just explain that they choose 3 schools from low SES environment to receive interventions, and they also choose 2 schools that didn't use PBL in their school as a control group. So it's exactly the same. This is an interventions group, and this is a control group. What are they doing? They're doing just like the first paper, but in this one, because I think this one is in the USA, so they checked the student task score in 2008. So they got the score from the national records. And then for the interventions group, they do the interventions for 3 years. where the teacher receives training, and then also the teacher required to deliver PBL each 6 weeks for 3 years. And also each lesson plans were designed and worked together with content specialists in STEM PBL. After the interventions, they also do the observations afterward, which also they got the test score from 2008 to 2010. And then this is how they analyze the data. It's quite different from the first paper here. They basically focus on this. Well, for these, the data analysis that they are doing, because the main questions for their research is the differences in personal factors, individual factors. So they employed analytic approach included control covariate. So there are many variables that comes into pictures in the analysis, including gender, ethnicity, economic status, ESL, special education, and at risk. And therefore, they use HLM, hierarchical linear model, which will enables them to analyze these so many variables. And also they also use descriptive statistics to get the general data of how consistent the data is to as a starter. So basically that's the methodology.
Now I'm going to talk about the key information being communicated in these two articles. In their first articles, the results of the research suggest that PBL had no significant impact on either literacy skills or pupils' engagement with school and learning. Although literacy attainment was chosen as the primary outcome for these studies, it was not the principal aim of their learning through real projects intervention. So the founder, developer, and evaluator were keen to investigate whether a PBL curriculum can be implemented which can promote literacy attainment to at least the same extent as a more traditional teaching approach. However, the impact assessment suggests that PBL may have had a negative impact on the literacy achievement of pupils on free school meals. But this finding has no negative impact was found for low achievement students. From the observations and the feedback from schools, it found that PBL was found to be valuable in improving student skills, including oracy, communication, teamwork, and independent learning skills. The implementation of PBL still requires significant management, support, and organization change. The innovation unit's training and support program for teachers and school leaders was found to be effective in supporting this intervention. The second article, the key information is that low achievers and Hispanic students' growth rates were statistically significantly higher than PBLs, and should be considered by policymakers, educators, and teachers in designing differentiated instruction. The findings should help teachers and educators rethink how students at different achievement levels benefit from participating in STEM PBL activities, and guide them in adapting their teaching strategies to engage diverse learners in the classroom. Individual students factors influence student academic achievement within the STEM PBL learning environment. Students' gender, ethnicity, socio-economic status, and language ability were identified as a key factor influencing academic performance, and students' economic status was also identified as an important factor in improving performance on mathematics exams through STEM PBL experience. That is, they should examine why students at different achievement levels exhibit different rates of growth and how students' individual factors interact with different components of STEM PBL.
Hello guys, this is Andy, and now I'm going to talk about the results of both articles. For the first article, based on the research process and results, it's quite hard to make a firm conclusion because some of the intervention goals draw on the process and the two differing results. Therefore, the research results need to be interpreted with caution. However, there is sufficient evidence to continue implementation and the investigation of PGBI in the primary grades in low-set settings as a means to address the often neglected domains of social studies and informational reading, writing, and faster learning by tapping into students' drive to connect with the make sense of their social world. For the second articles, we found a positive growth rate in students' academic achievement in mathematics, while STEAM PBLs were implemented at the high school level. Study demonstrated varied growth rates, which indicate that a learning environment may influence different impacts on each performance group. Therefore, implementing STEAM PBLs in schools can have diverse impacts on student achievement and attitude according to their performance level. A student's economic status was also found to be an important factor in improving mathematics test scores through STEAM PBL experience. Low economic status was not a barrier for students in their first year of the study. However, students in the low economic status group ultimately receive negative impacts, lower growth rate, from their engagement in STEAM PBLs. Educators will need to consider if any particular aspect of STEAM PBL was a barrier for economically disadvantaged students' learning process. Yeah, that's all. Thanks for listening.
So now let's move on to the limitations and the question to be asked for the two articles. The first one, testing the impact of project-based learning in secondary school. For this article, we have addressed two questions. The first one is, can the significant loss of data hugely impact the strength of the research study findings entirely? So basically, we all know that the individual bias, they do exist, but even though they cannot make a huge impact to the result of the study. And the second one we call financial barrier. Apparently, for this team who did the study, they do not have the sufficient funding as a support for their research, especially compared with another team. In another article. Now we can focus on the other article. So for this article, we also locate some limitations and the questions which is worthy to be thinking about. So first of all, the biggest limitation for this article we think might be the subject limitation. Because in this article, the author and his team just talking about 4 subjects. Even though these 4 subjects, they are all representatives, but it's still there is some limitations, like there are some other subjects which are not mentioned. So probably the more we talk about, the more we do research, the result will be better. And for the second limitation, we can just simply regard it as the individual bias, which might infect the final result. And also we have located a question which is meaningful. Will it be challenging to include the PBL approach in STEM?
Hi there, I'm Li Wei Wang from Group 1, and here we have What Do We Still Don't Know? So after reading these 2 essays, we now have a new understanding of PBL. However, at the same time, we also encounter some questions that authors can solve. In the first essay, the impact evaluation indicated that PBL may have had a negative impact on the literacy attainment of pupils entitled to free school meals. However, as no negative impact was found for low-attaining pupils, considerable caution should be applied to this finding. And here we have the second essay. In this essay, the author points out that researchers should investigate why students of different performance levels showed different growth rates and how students' individual factors functioned with these diverse components of STEM PBL. For example, the low-performing group showed more positive impacts from group collaborations while engaging in STEM PBL classroom activities. However, it was impossible to determine why the positive impact on low achievers resulted from the heterogeneous grouping in STEM PBLs. The data in this study were limited to disclose the effectiveness of STEM PBL, thus not enough to investigate how and why STEM PBLs positively influence students' achievement.
Aris speaking again. So, what are the similarities between these two articles? First, they have STEM methodologies, like quasi-experiment. At the same time, they are both using academic tests as an assessment tools for the research finding. What's more, they have similar purpose and finding. For the purpose, they both want to find out whether PBL can influence students' academic performance. And for the finding, it's impressed the authors that PBL can have some negative impacts on low ACS pupils and pupils who receive free meals. Here they are.
Coming to the differences, some of the very evident differences between the two research projects are both the research projects take place in different countries, that is, with one being in UK and the other tried in USA. Also, the age group of the students are different, with the EEF project focusing on the secondary school students and the PBL in the STEM, and PBL in STEM project focusing on the high school students. The academic area considered also varies, with one focusing on the literacy and the other on STEM. The time period of the research study is very different, with the EEF project having the duration of 2 years and the PBL in STEM learning having the duration of 3 years, which could grossly affect the results of the study. The UK project, that is, the EEF research used randomized controlled trial, whereas the STEM project used non-randomized method. The study from EEF shows that PBL has no negative impact on the low score students. Meanwhile, the other study for the PBL in STEM based learning shows that there's a greater growth in students who are low achievers compared to the middle and high achievers. Also, the data analysis methods used for both the research projects are very different.